Electronica was at the very beginning the underdog, but then rave culture came about. And the more I read about it, like I said, the more it's difficult to understand what it was like in the UK.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that's a huge question because every city had its own scene. So I live in London, but I travelled all around the UK. It was like a family and it was very underground. Like now, dance music is on adverts for toothpaste or face cleaner or it's just everywhere all the time. But in the UK, you could only hear it on pirate radio. You couldn't even hear it in the daytime, on the evening shows. It was so underground, and that made it feel really special, like we were a little tribe of people who knew this secret, like a secret society.
It's great to meet you. It's great to be with you. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, waiting for music to start again and our lives to continue.
Great news coming from Reading and Leeds,
Yeah, it's a huge, a huge achievement. I hope these festivals can go ahead because, especially for students, it's like what you call a rite of passage. When you finish your exams in school, then you go out and you go crazy at Reading. When you're like 16, 17, it's quite a young festival, or a Joven, So, and it's really good, heavy rock as well. So if you like your rock, Reading and Leeds Festival is the place to be. But there's some amazing dance festivals over the summer, and I truly hope that they carry on as planned. Some of them might be with the social distancing, we don't yet know. But I think like Creamfield should happen. I hope. Pray.
Well, looking forward to that. Listen, which was your? Do you remember your first festival experience?
I do. I was there as a punter, as in I was the audience. I was 17 years old. I went to Glastonbury, and it cost £15 to go there. That's like $20. Now it's like £250. It's completely different. I went on a bus with some friends. We didn't have mobile phones. Like, how did we find each other? It was crazy. But I remember there was a big tree, and you had to write a note on a post-it note, a sticky note, and you stick your note to the tree saying, hey, I'm going to go and watch Peter Gabriel at 12 o'clock. And you just hope that you run into your friends. And now it's more like 250,000 people. Everybody's on the mobile saying, hey, I'm going to be in the New York City down low, or I'm going to be watching Coldplay or Radiohead or whatever it is. And you always think it's a miracle if you find your friends. But as I say, I went for the very first time, 1987. And you know what? I didn't want to wash when I came home. It was like the experience was in my skin. It was inside me, the music, the dirt, the heat. It was crazy. But what a lot of people don't know about Glastonbury, it's on a working farm. The land belongs to a farmer, Michael Eavis. And when it's not a massive festival, you have cows wandering around and sheep, and I remember drinking milk in the morning that came fresh from Michael Eavis's cows. So this is maybe very different to the modern festival experience.
Definitely. Did you ever perform at Glastonbury? I think you did, right?
We certainly did. We did a number of times, and we played twice second headline on the Pyramid stage,
right,
which is the best place in the world to be looking out of. Once before Coldplay, and the second time I was with Stevie Wonder.
Wow.
Just incredible. So I've had a very, very lucky life, with my music. And when you're up there and you can see 120,000 people in front of you, it blows your mind, but it feels like home at the same time. So, I mean, I love it. For me, music, it's about connection. It's about that sense of us becoming one with the audience, and we create this amazing energy, all of us.
How'd you get into electronic music?
I fell in love with everything to do with it. I think from the 80s onwards, from bands like Kraftwerk, the Human League, anything that had synthesizers and drum machines, and it sounded like it came from another planet. And also Jean-Michel Jarre, do you know him?
Yeah,
He's
of
a
course.
synthesizer wizard. So for me, that was a huge influence. I just loved it because it didn't sound like anything you'd ever heard before. And I think I was very influenced by that change in music, the time when kind of hip hop and disco and house music all kind of came together in what we have, the British rave culture. It was a mix of all of that because, in England, it's a very mixed society. There was a lot of people from the Caribbean there, Jamaica, you had sound systems, which were the beginning of raves, if you like, playing kind of dub, reggae, bashment. And then there was this mix with this electronic sounds from like outer space. And that kind of exploded and became house music, really. So I feel like I was there right at the beginning of everything, the birth of a new sound. I guess that was a big influence, yeah.
What was the rave culture like? Because the more you read about it, the more you want it to be there because it's detached of obviously the experience that you went through. I've been reading about it because of the whole Daft Punk dissolution and how you, as you mentioned it was such a turning point in music in general. Electronica was at the very beginning the underdog, but then rave culture came about. And the more I read about it, like I said, the more it's difficult to understand what it was like in the UK.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that's a huge question because every city had its own scene. So I live in London, but I travelled all around the UK. It was like a family and it was very underground. Like now, dance music is on adverts for toothpaste or face cleaner or it's just everywhere all the time. But in the UK, you could only hear it on pirate radio. You couldn't even hear it in the daytime, on the evening shows. It was so underground, and that made it feel really special, like we were a little tribe of people who knew this secret, like a secret society. And it was crazy. It was just chaotic. It was illegal a lot of the time. People would just turn up at big warehouses and just get a generator on to make the electricity and fire up the sound systems. And we didn't have mobile phones. We had little things called pagers, and you'd listen to pirate radio to find out the directions to the secret rave. And you'd pray that the police wouldn't come and shut it all down, So it felt like an adventure. It felt secret, underground, but also full of love because, of course, this was the first time in the UK ecstasy, the drug, had arrived, I think probably from New York, from America. There were some people who experienced it, like the band Soft Cell. They wrote about it in some of their music, which is very electronic as well. And that was really early 80s, but it wasn't until the late 80s that suddenly there was this explosion of the music, the parties, and this drug, which was the drug of love, MDMA, ecstasy, Molly, whatever you guys call it. I mean, you can't ignore it. It was an important part of, I guess, why the culture was so compelling, because it made you feel so deeply, and people you never met before became your friends for life, forever. I met so many people who fell in love with the music, the attitude. Like, you used to go clubbing, it was just for picking up a girl or picking up a boy, and it was a bit kind of I don't know, sometimes aggressive as well, because in the UK the culture was very much drinking culture.
Right.
And then house music came along and changed everything. It made people feel love again, love the music, love the scene, love each other. This incredible energy. It changed fashion. It changed the landscape in this country.
And it changed music forever because, like you say...
Yeah. It's now the pop music of today, and it was the underground music of yesterday.
Do you feel bad about that? Do you regret the fact that it went over the ground, that it became a pop phenom?
No, because I think change is inevitable. You know, life moves forward. And I love that as well. I love that the music and the scene keeps regenerating. There's people my age who were in love with it the first time round and made a life in something that, you know, it wasn't aspirational then. It was seen as a bad thing. And now there are kids all over the world who love DJs, who love DJing, who love the festivals, the culture. They travel to different places to experience, you know, something that is, it's like art. I mean, people go to Burning Man because it's like an artistic happening in the middle of the desert with the music and the raves. But it's about being in a new space. The idea of what your life could be like if it wasn't for boring work or not getting enough pay or all the things that bring us down in life, like pandemics. You know, music is an escape from that. So I could never say, you know, oh, I'm really sad. It isn't like it was back then. I mean, the main difference I think now is the mobile technology, the internet. We didn't have any of that. So it really was, if you were at the club, you were in the moment. There was nothing. There was just you, the music, the people you were with. And now there's people like filming the DJ. You know, it's almost like they want the world to know that they were there and they're forgetting to experience the moment.
That's
you know
true.
What I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's the big difference, mate. Yeah. And for me, that's more sad. That makes me a little sad.
I know. I also feel a little bit bad for that type of culture, even though I understand it from that teenager point of view. You know, I was at Lollapalooza. I don't know. This was like a couple years ago, watching Travis Scott, and it was funny to see how audiences react as opposed to how we react to shows, because they would be waiting for this 15-second ecstatic moment, whereas, you know, we were waiting for the progression of the music to, you know, kind of expand and explode and make us feel great. And kids these days, you know, you see Travis, you know, just going on this really fast trip, a 15-20 second thing, and it gives kids, you know, time to, you know, post their story and do their little thing, and then they go back to doing the same thing over and over again. That's kind of the 45-minute set, and it's really interesting to see that shift in the culture of live performances, because you kind of miss out, you know.
Yeah, of being lost in the music, you know, lost in something that can become spiritual. I mean, that's something I've been so lucky to perform in a live band with Faithless for the best part of 20 years, 25 years now. And also I DJ. So I have both perspectives, what it is to be in a live band. And for us, it's taking that element of the clubbing, the psychedelic, the journey, but putting it in a rock and roll band with guitars and drums. But that sense of the music being hypnotic. I think when you have to make everything short, because everything has to be 3 minutes for Spotify, or even less, 2 minutes, and the set at the festival is 40 minutes, I guess everybody is kind of like bang, 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 hit, 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 and they don't just let the music breathe, you know. So it's something we've always tried to do. And even on our albums, even though the new album, All Blessed, is I think around 1 hour long. I'd love it to be 2 hours long, but you're not allowed to do that anymore. But it's still the idea that you're starting somewhere and opening the door into a different world. I love that feeling. I love to get lost in the music.
Did that happen from the very beginning? Did you have this in your mind when you started, when things like God is a DJ just took over the airwaves and just went global, even though they were hypnotic and they were, you know, taking you on this journey? Did you always have this in mind? Was this your purpose musically?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we came from the club culture, some of our records started to connect, but they were all 7-8 minutes long. Like people aren't making music like that anymore. You know, if you're going over 4 minutes, it's seen as being really indulgent, or it's too long for streaming formats. But people got drawn into the music through the club mixes that the DJs were playing, and they were long. God is a DJ was definitely 7 minutes long. And of course we did an edit for the radio, but even then the radio edits, you're allowed to be 3 minutes 40, 50. Now it has to be under 3 minutes. I don't know where this new rule has come from, but I think people fell in love with our music because it had, melody, a feeling, a message, but it was hypnotic. It draws you in and it takes you on like a roller coaster ride, like Six Flags. Six Flags in music. We go up, we go down, we go along, we build, and then like that.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Was it controversial to say that back in '99? I remember I have this really clear memory of the radio producer, the radio station that I worked for. The producer had this very special digipack special edition of that album where God is a DJ is. And looking at the package and really looking at it and saying and understanding and feeling that what I had in my hands was really special. And this man would use the music that you had in there to kind of produce little bits and pieces of production stuff for the station. And it gave whatever copywriting was or whatever the station meant a sense of depth. So it was inevitable to sit there and just take the CD out of the case. And it was, to me, it was very powerful to see that track and to see what it was named. God is a DJ. Was it controversial at the beginning?
Yeah. It was quite provocative, but we thought we'd get in much more trouble than we did. It was a kind of comment on the new super club culture where everybody would face the DJ like the DJ was God or Jesus, and the DJ would stand there with their arms out and it felt like you were in a church. And Maxie's lyrics are so clever, but also really describe that experience that even though everyday life is so difficult, this is my church. This is where I come to heal with my fellow ravers in a club. But, I love the lyrics work on lots of different levels. And that's something we always try and do in our music, is the sense of healing and the sense that you can take the message in lots of different ways. It's something we try to do on the new album and on the new single, which is called I Need Someone, which is, of course, it's obvious. I need someone. It's like, it's a statement, but it also works on another level because it's about all of humanity and how we're not going to survive unless we, show each other a bit of love and compassion. But on another level, it could just be like a boy and a girl and a relationship going wrong, So I love it when the words can, they're like poetry. They're open to interpretation.
I have to take this opportunity to say that I bought No Roots back in 2003 in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I was in a...
Wow.
I was.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. It was a good album. Yeah.
Let me tell you, I was interviewing Robbie Williams back then. It was like September, October of 2003. And that's like one of my top 5 albums of all time. I just, I can't begin to explain what that album meant to me at that time and what it makes me feel. That's one album I come back to since you put it out once or twice every year, and I can hear it over and over again because it's just one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in dance music,
Thank you. That's so kind. Thank you so much. I mean, that record was a response to, the Iraq War, really, that we were, again, as always, we try and write about the world around us, what we feel about it, and how we can connect in difficult times. I mean, for me, I was very proud of that record because Mass Destruction was the first single and it was a real anti-war single. And it was standing up saying, racism is a weapon of mass destruction. Greed is a weapon of mass destruction. And we were going on about it back then. And right now we are seeing the results of that. We're seeing the terrible effects of climate change. We're seeing racism that is damaging people's sense of themselves and their chances in life. And it's become a really ugly, big issue, you know, with your, especially in America, with your neighbours, but not only there, in the UK. Those lyrics, it's like they're still relevant even now, even though that song was very specifically about the Iraq War and the story of a guy, you know, a soldier leaving his family and everything that he loves to go and fight for his country. And then the rest of the record isn't quite so heavy, but it's a nice groovy record.
It is.
You know, it kind of flows. Again, that we made a decision to make it kind of flow like a DJ set on that album. So, well, thank you. I'm glad you like that. And now I want to listen to it, because I haven't listened to it for like at least 10 years.
Let me tell you, like I said, you know, I listened to that record sacredly once or twice every year since it came out. The other day, like before the pandemic, we were on a road trip and I was with my friend, and I just, you know, we just looked it up on Spotify or whatever, and it was like a long trip. It was like a 2.5 hour trip or something. And it was like, this guy was like driving, then all of a sudden, like in the middle of the road, he was like, fucking good record, man. This is great. And I was like, dude, it's been out. It's been out for a while, man. And it was like, man, it's amazing, because it's got what you said before. You know, it's got the hypnotic quality. It's got the danceable tunes. It's groovy. It's thoughtful. It's tender. It talks about relationships, but also talks about the war. It was really compelling to hear that, because back in those days, I was also covering the Iraq War for a station. And,
no way.
Yeah.
Wow. So connection, everything, music, and your life and your experience in as a journalist.
Sure.
Wow.
So yeah, it's amazing to see you guys come back and do this beautiful album. Another thing that I wanted to say is that every time I play that album on the radio, same thing happens, and it's like it's hard for me to just play one song. I usually play like the first 3 cuts from No Roots, and same thing happens with the new album. You know, it's got that also progressive, hypnotic nature to it. Talk to me about the new album.
Yes, so you're right. You're absolutely right. There is a comparison to be made. Again, we wanted the songs to flow and to create a mood. We put this record out. It's called All Blessed, and it's that. It's ambivalent. You know, life, la vida es una bendición. But for some people, it's not. For some people, life is very, very, very hard. So it's about trying to find the light in the darkness. And we worked with lots of different collaborators on this album. Maxi left Faithless, and he wanted to pursue a new musical project, which was like a blues band. So we decided this was going to be a collaborative record. But because he's like a kind of poet and a prophet, we didn't just want a kind of like average rappers on the album, but we felt that the poetry that makes Faithless really distinctive. So we collaborated with some really fresh voices, a guy called Sully Breaks and Caleb Femi, and they bring this, they're from the spoken word poetry scene, and they bring a real fresh energy, very thoughtful, conscious people. And then we work with legends like Jazzy B, and then a singer who's like an indie singer called Damien Gerardo, who has the most beautiful voice. And also we collaborated with Mala Rodriguez to bring a feminine, strong, spiritual flavor to the record. So it was quite a lot of work to put all these things together, but to make it sound like one piece of music. But the idea is it is talking about the world we live in now. But I think it goes quite internal and dark in some places, and then you come out the other side remembering what to be grateful for, remembering that we have friendship, we have love, we have music, we have life to celebrate, and just to slow down and see the good things we have in life. And of course now internationally we've all had to slow down. Everything has ground to a halt, a complete stop. Like, I haven't done a show for 1 year. From next week it will be. And this is the longest time in 30 years that I haven't been DJing or playing live. It's crazy.
I know.
But it made me reflect. I'm grateful. I have my son. I'm not alone in the world. You know, I had time to keep in touch with my friends, make sure everybody was okay, because, you know, the mental health is suffering so much. And it's almost an accident, because some of the songs on the album are exactly about mental health and needing other people, and what happens, you know, when it all goes wrong and we lose our sense of self. And another theme on the album that became more apparent each time we collaborated was about immigration. Because right now, you know, race and immigration have some very toxic narratives around that. And Faithless, we're all from somewhere else. We are a band that is black, white, mixed race, girl, boy. You know, just by existing, Faithless is a statement that we can all be from somewhere else, but we create something good out of it, not just a war, you know? So, in a gentle way, I wanted for us to express that on the album as well, you know. And the cover of the album is important, because it's a boat full of refugees, you know, fleeing political persecution or climate change or terrible life in a little boat, and they could die at any moment, as thousands of refugees are. I mean, this is on the front page of the news, La Noticias, every single day. Yeah. This is a crisis in our lifetime. And we need to think of ways to make life better for people and not to punish them, because it could be us. You know, London might be underwater in the next couple of years if the sea rises up, and then we'll all be refugees. We'll be just like them, people with hopes and dreams and a life like everybody else. And we have to remember that, because I think, as I say, in the news, there's a lot of narratives that dehumanizes these people and say, they're coming here to take what belongs to us. And so there's a climate of fear and hate and paranoia. And what I love about, we just worked with La Mala Rodriguez, she says in her lyrics, she wants to drive away the hate and remember that life is a blessing, and that we need to be grateful because we have each other. And it's, I think it's something we've always said right the way through from when Faithless started.
Yeah. This is the very first time that you guys worked with a Spanish collaborator, right?
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How did the collaboration work? How did it come about? Who did you choose her? How did it happen?
Yeah, well, I just felt very strongly that this particular song had such a beautiful melody and such a simple message that was just so universal and so relevant to what everybody's been going through with the sense of isolation. And I just felt I wanted it to be more than just an English song for the little English people. Do you know what I mean? I wanted it to feel like it was bigger for the world. And of course, our music has traveled all over the world, and mainly in English. But I felt very strongly that it could bring a different flavor to it, you know, sabor, working with somebody else. And also the idea of the masculine and the feminine, it becomes a duet. You know, and I was thinking about who we would like to work with, and literally listening to lots of music and thinking maybe it would be a rapper. And when I was aware of the work of La Mala Rodriguez, she's a rapper and a singer and a performer, and she's collaborated with some great artists who I love, like Nelly Furtado, and she just had a real cool vibe. So we got in touch with her management, and she just said, I love the track. And she literally said, I'm going in the studio and I'm going to record. And it was, I can't believe how easy it was, you know, having done this album, which is all collaborations, and putting it together like a giant puzzle, all the little pieces. This happened like water flowing. It was so natural, and she's just fantastic. Her energy, again, she's like a poet. We were talking yesterday, actually. She loves the writer Lorca.
Garcia Lorca.
Garcia Lorca. Yeah. So we're talking about how words, las palabras, is más importante, tan importante, you know. And I love that, because Faithless has been about this mix of poetry and electronic music. And she just came right in and rocked it, you know. And I love the words that she has written for her part in the song. They're full of images, you know, and really powerful. And she has a very sensual energy as well. So it's been amazing to work with her.
You got good Spanish.
That's how it happened. Yeah. Oh, I want to practice. You want to help? I did a big tour in South America a few years ago, and I thought I really want to learn Spanish. And I had a year off from touring with Faithless, and me and my percussionista, we learned together. And we came to Mexico first, and we were practicing. We'd been learning like 3 months, and they just spoke English at us and laughed. I was like, what are we doing wrong? But I guess we needed to practice some more. But, you know, I love the language, I love the culture and the food. Colombia is one place I haven't been.
We were waiting for you guys, like, I don't know how long it was, but somebody in Miami told me they're going to Colombia soon, and I was so excited about that, so stoked, and somehow it just never happened. This was like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years ago maybe.
I know. I don't know why. I would absolutely love to come and play. I hear the music scene is amazing. Cartagena as well, everybody tells me, is the most special place, and Medellin. So maybe next year when everything is tranquilo.
Yes, hopefully I'll be a part of that. You know, I'll talk to the boys at the record label and see if we can actually make that happen, because it would really, really be an amazing experience for those of us who are big fans of your work and want to see this.
Thank you so much.
Performed.
We've traveled a lot in South America to Argentina. I've played in Peru, Brazil, and Mexico City, which was one of the most crazy gigs I've ever done in my whole life. So maybe when everybody is more safe and we're allowed to travel, it would be wonderful to come and see you guys.
Absolutely. I got one last question before I let you go. Thanking you very much for taking the time, and it's got to do with Synthesizer. Tell me more about that song. It's a beautiful song. I don't want to let you go without you telling me a little bit about it.
Thank you so much. Well, this was about to be a massive club record. I was testing it out for the last maybe year before we released it, and I had this feeling this feels like a big Faithless record. We got some amazing remixes on board. We have Maceo Plex and a guy called Butch, who's just fantastic. And it was like a love letter to electronic music. And it was also a comment on this world we live in that is so full of technology. You know, sometimes we love our technology more than we love each other. You know, our relationships, it was on Tinder, it's all through a telephone. You know, we forget to talk to people and to relate. So it was a little comment on that, you know, dystopian future we live in. There's a lot of surveillance. We're being watched all the time as well. So there was a very cool video that we made for Synthesizer that was like with a crazy mad professor in it as well. But yeah, it was a big club tune, but also a little bit about what we love in music. Like, you know, in rock and roll, you have the drums and the guitars is in the middle of the music. You know, now music, it's the synthesizer. It's the instrument that I have been in love with since right at the beginning of our conversation. We come in a big circle since the 80s, since I heard Kraftwerk on the radio and those crazy sounds from another planet. So yeah, it's a love letter. Una letra d'amor.
Sister Bliss, thank you very much once again for taking the time to talk to me. It's been a privilege and an honor.
Thank you so much. And soon come to Colombia, I hope.
I hope
pray.
so. Take good care.
Thank you for having me. Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Ciao.